Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Today we're going to be looking at the NL East in 2025.
Yeah, exciting division, lots of storylines.
It really is. It's shaping up to be maybe one of the most competitive in baseball.
For sure.
So we found this really interesting analysis by David Pinto over at Baseball Musings, baseballmusings.com, and he goes by @StatsGuru on Twitter.
Yeah, great blog, lots of deep dives.
He really gets into the weeds with the data, and I love that.
Oh yeah, he breaks it down.
And for this deep dive, we're going to be going deep on his piece about the NL East projections for 2025.
Sounds good.
And he does this really cool thing where he creates what he calls the core winning percentage, or CWP.
Yeah, love this really interesting way to look at teams.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about what that CWP actually means.
So basically, he takes the 9 projected starting position players, the 5 starting pitchers, and the closer.
So that's like the core?
Yeah, exactly, the core of the team.
The guys who are going to be out there pretty much every day.
Yeah, the guys you're really relying on to win you games.
Right, and he weighs those starters a little bit more heavily in this calculation.
90-10 split between starters and the closer.
So just a little bit of extra emphasis on those starters.
For sure.
And then he looks at their offensive output using runs created per game, or RCG.
Yep, both for the hitters and the pitchers.
And then he feeds that data into the Pythagorean method, which is kind of a way to translate that run differential into an expected winning percentage.
Basically, it's saying, based on how many runs you score and how many you allowed, this is what your record should look like.
Right, and it's really important to remember, though, that this CWP is not a direct prediction of their overall win-loss record.
Right. This is just looking at the core of the team, and there are so many other factors that go into a team's final record.
Exactly. Injuries, trades, the bullpen, anything can happen. But it's a really cool way to compare teams within a division and get a sense of, which teams have the strongest foundation.
Yeah, who has the best core group of players?
And in this case, we're talking about the NL East, the Phillies, Braves, Mets, Nationals, and the Marlins.
A lot of talent in that division.
Absolutely. So let's dive into each team, starting with the Philadelphia Phillies.
All right, so the Phillies, they have a position player RCG average of 5.36, a pitcher RCG average of 4.11, and a core winning percentage of .630.
.630, that's pretty solid. Suggests a strong core.
Yeah, no doubt.
But David does point out a potential concern, and that's the age of their offensive core.
Yeah, they've got a lot of veterans in that lineup.
6 of their 9 projected starters will be between 32 and 34 years old this season.
That's getting up there for baseball players.
And, around 32 is often when you start to see that decline.
Yeah, the body starts to break down a little bit.
You can't quite run as fast. Maybe the bat speed slows down a bit.
For sure.
And those Marcels projections, they actually take that age into account.
Yeah, they're not just looking at past performance. They're factoring in the expected regression for these older players.
Which means even with guys like Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Tree Turner, they're projecting some level of decline just based on age.
Right, and that's why their overall offensive projection is only second best in the division.
Right, but still, second best is nothing to sneeze at.
Definitely not.
And they do have a lot of talent in those key up-the-middle positions.
Yeah, catcher, shortstop, second base, center field, they're strong there.
And those are the guys who can really set the tone for the defense.
Absolutely.
And on the pitching side, their core also projects as second best in the division.
They've got Zach Wheeler, who's projected to be excellent.
Yeah, he's a workhorse.
And the rest of the rotation is projected to be very good.
All 5 starters below the league average RCG of 4.71.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And another thing that David points out is their ability to limit walks.
That's huge. Walks can really kill you.
Especially when they lead to extra base hits.
Yeah, a walk followed by a double is a lot worse than just a double.
So they do a good job of keeping guys off the base paths.
For sure.
But, I do wonder, with their decision to stay mostly pat after winning the division last year, if they might regret not making some moves to address that aging core.
It's a gamble, for sure.
Sometimes you need to shake things up, even when you're coming off a successful season.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to the Atlanta Braves.
All right, so the Braves, they have a position player RCG average of 5.41, a pitcher RCG average of 3.86, and a core winning percentage of .663.
.663, that's the highest in the division.
Yeah, they look really strong on paper.
But we have to remember, last year they were also projected to be dominant, and they ended up finishing second.
Yeah, injuries and some underperformance really hurt them.
That's a baseball for you.
Absolutely.
But these projections, they're banking on a bit of a regression to the mean.
Yeah, they're basically saying that the Braves are too talented to have another down year.
And their projected RCG for both hitters and pitchers is first in the division.
So they're expecting a big bounce back.
And there's a lot to be excited about offensively, especially with Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back in May.
Yeah, he's projected to be significantly better than Jarred Kelenic, who's filling in for him.
Like 2 runs per game better.
That's huge.
He's a game changer.
Absolutely.
And they have 5 starting hitters who are either in their prime or haven't even reached it yet.
Yeah, a lot of young talent in that lineup.
So they should be able to score runs in bunches.
I'm sure.
And their pitching is no slouch either.
No, they have 3 starters projected with an RCG below 4.0, which is more than any other team in the division.
And they have Raisel Iglesias closing games, who's considered the best in the division.
Yeah, they're strong from top to bottom.
The only concern, I guess, is Chris Sale's injury history.
Yeah, he's a talented pitcher, but he's always a risk to get hurt.
But even with that, the projections are very optimistic.
They have a very good chance of winning the division, according to David.
Sounds like they're the team to beat.
On paper, they certainly are.
All right, let's move on to the New York Mets.
Okay, the Mets, their position player RCG average is 5.49, pitcher RCG average is 4.52, and core winning percentage is .569.
Not quite as strong as the Braves or Phillies, but still a decent core.
Yeah, they're a solid team.
And the big news for them, of course, is the addition of Juan Soto.
Oh, yeah, he's a monster.
His offensive projection is the best in the entire division.
He's gonna rake.
But they are dealing with some early injuries, which is putting a bit of a damper on things.
Yeah, Brett Beatty and Luis Torrens are filling in for injured players, and their projections aren't as good.
And they also have Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea out with injuries on the pitching side.
But even with those injuries, their CWP would still rank 3rd in the division.
So they have some depth.
Yeah, they're not a one-man team.
But David does point out that they have the lowest projected core RCG up the middle in the division.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
It's harder to score runs when your catcher, shortstop, second baseman, and center fielders aren't hitting. So Mets fans should be excited about Soto, but maybe temper those World Series expectations a bit.
Yeah, they're good, but maybe not quite ready to compete with the Braves and Phillies just yet.
All right, let's take a look at the Washington Nationals.
So the Nationals, their position player RCG average is 4.80, pitcher RCG average is 4.89, and their core winning percentage is .491.
Oof, that's not great.
No, not a good sign.
Below .500, even when you take out Patrick Corbin's high RCG projection.
Yeah, which means it's not just one bad pitcher dragging them down.
It's a team-wide issue.
Absolutely.
When your core players aren't projected to be above .500, it's hard to imagine the team as a whole finishing above .500.
Yeah, it's not looking good for them.
But there is some good news, I guess.
Yeah, they have a young batting order with most of the guys not yet in their prime.
So there's potential for growth.
Definitely.
Dylan Cruz and James Wood are 2 guys to watch.
Yeah, they could outperform their projections.
But the problem is there's not a lot of help coming from the minors on the offensive side.
So it's going to be a slow rebuild.
And their pitching core is also disappointing.
No ace, no starter projected below 4 RCG.
Yikes.
The better pitching prospects are still a year or 2 away.
So another losing season for the Nats.
Looks that way.
All right, let's wrap things up with the Miami Marlins.
Okay, the Marlins. Position player RCG average of 4.39, pitcher RCG average of 5 lumber, and core winning percentage of .426.
That's the worst in the division.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
2 things for Marlins fans to watch, though.
Xavier Edwards at the top of the order,
He could be a dynamic leadoff hitter.
and Sandy Alcantara coming back from injury.
He had a good spring, so there's hope he could be an ace again.
But their offense is full of prime-age guys who just haven't played much in the majors,
Inexperience, which means there's potential.
but also a lot of uncertainty.
And David's take is, if these guys were that good, they would have been called up sooner.
Yeah, it's kind of a damning assessment.
And their pitching, well, it's not pretty.
5.0 RCG, that's rough.
Connor Gillespie could be a decent starter.
But overall, they just don't have the talent to compete in this division.
Worst offense, worst pitching, another long season for the Marlins.
Sounds about right.
So after all that, what's David's final prediction for the NL East?
He gives the Braves a 42% chance of winning the division, the Phillies 38%, the Mets 15%, the Nationals 4%, and the Marlins 1%.
So Braves and Phillies are the clear favorites.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight race.
Mets need to get healthy and have a strong second half to make a run.
For sure.
And the Nats and Marlins, well, they're just playing for pride at this point.
That's about it.
But hey, that's the beauty of baseball. Anything can happen.
You never know.
All right, that's our deep dive into the NL East projections for 2025.
Great stuff.
Make sure to check out David Pinto's full analysis over at Baseball Musings.
Yeah, he's got a lot of great insights.
And for our Spanish-speaking listeners, head over to Planeta Baseball's blog at planeta-baseball.com/blog.
They've got some great baseball content over there.
So as we head into the season, keep an eye on those individual performances.
Yeah, because one breakout player or one unexpected slump can really change things.
That's what makes baseball so unpredictable and exciting.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.
See you then.